lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
And I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And today on the show, we're going to be reviewing X, which released today, Friday, March 18th, 2022, exclusively in theaters. But before we get into the discussion, it's well documented around these parts that I'm a bona fide A24 fanboy. Obviously, I was pretty excited to see X. I was going to be there day one regardless. But Rowan, what about yourself? Were you excited to grab your popcorn and kick back in the theater to check this one out?
Yeah, so I remember seeing the trailer whenever the trailer came out.
A couple months ago, yeah.
I was all about it. I thought the trailer looked awesome. It sounded awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the idea. I think kind of that first trailer that came out had that, Texas Chainsaw feel. I was
very much, yeah.
So I was just all right, yeah, we got a Matthew McConaughey,
discount Matthew McConaughey in this movie, yeah, leading
Big
up.
8 Matthew McConaughey, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was pretty pumped about it. I had it marked on my calendar.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way to you. I remember you messaging us when the trailer came out, and I was kind of like, you know what, I'm not even going to watch the trailer. I know Ty West, I've seen The House of the Devil, and I was a big fan of that one, a decade ago when that came out. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to bother to check this out, the trailer out, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. I think the trailer actually gave away quite a bit of the movie when I rewatched it, or watched it for the first time today. So I'm glad that I didn't check that out beforehand. I went into this movie basically blind, other than Rowan's excitement in our group chat, and yeah, I'm always going to be excited for an A24 movie. So, are you familiar with Ty West at all, Rowan?
So, somewhat, probably not like most. You had brought up House of the Devil.
Mm-hmm.
I've never actually fully seen House of the Devil.
Okay.
It's a movie that I started watching one day and I really liked it, and then I just never finished it.
You have to be in a very specific mood for House of the Devil because it feels like an 80s movie, but also in pacing, and it's just very, I don't know, it's almost like this dreamlike quality to it. You got to be on its vibe for sure. It's a very methodical movie.
So, I was familiar with them in terms of, I had seen Cabin Fever 2.
Okay.
Familiar with the stuff he did for, VHS, 1 and 2. Yeah. And then that was, I'd never seen The Innkeepers.
No, me neither.
And then, I know he had his hand in Your Next also.
Oh, did he? Was he a writer or producer? Or?
Yeah, I think he was a writer or producer. He didn't direct it, obviously. That was Adam Wingard. But I know he had his hand in that somehow, which I think is kind of where I had first really heard his name.
Okay, yeah.
I was going to say it's kind of just through passing I'm most familiar with him because I know... Eli Roth, if anyone watches on Shudder, he does that history of horror show, and just interviews and stuff. Eli Roth is always talking about Ty West is kind of one of the what he thinks is the great modern horror directors.
Yeah, I mean, from House of the Devil, I haven't seen The Innkeepers. There was another one there that I had listed, The Sacrament, which I guess that's probably a religious horror movie. I haven't seen either of those. I've seen his segments in VHS and the ABCs of Death.
Yes.
But other than that, it's purely House of the Devil for me, and I think that's an excellent movie. That'll probably be a good one for us to cover eventually on the show. But going to this movie, I basically knew House of the Devil, and I know he had a Western that I think was called In the Valley of Violence or something. That was kind of in 2016. Yeah, I think with Ethan Hawke, if I'm not mistaken. So I haven't seen that. I heard good things, but it was one of those oh my God, it's 2.5 hours long in a Western. So
You gotta
I
be
wasn't into
prepared
that
for
one.
that.
100%. I'm not the biggest Western guy, anyways. But also, I mean, besides from Ty West, going into this, we have Jenna Ortega, and as one of the stars of the new Scream movie, and like probably my favorite part of that movie, if I'm being honest, she's the opening scene girl. That I was kind of like, all right, let's see what this movie has to do. And Mia Goth as well. I don't know if you're overly familiar with her. She's a weird looking actress, but everything I've seen her in, she's been pretty great.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely know her from like Lars von Trier and Nymphomaniac.
Okay.
I think I've seen her in something else she was in too.
Yeah, she's in the Suspiria remake. I actually haven't seen that. I don't know if you have.
That's another one that I never finished, but
Okay.
I
Bits and
do
pieces.
recognize her from that.
Yeah, and for me, it was A Cure for Wellness was the first thing I saw her in, which is like very Art Deco, Dane DeHaan, weird, kind of like just a dramatic horror movie. It felt to me like Gore Verbinski really wanted to make a Bioshock movie and then couldn't get the budget, so he made this like small, contained, like weirdly artsy horror movie. It's pretty good. It was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I guess kind of enough running around the bush. We should probably just throw it to the trailer and let's come back and get into our discussion of X.
Farmer's daughter, take one. I need to be famous, Wayne. All the best people are.
There ain't nobody else out there like you. You know why?
Why?
'Cause you got that X Factor. Our days of struggling may soon be over.
Hollywood, here we go.
So this is it. Our own studio backlot.
You looking for a place to stay?
Oh, yes, sir.
That's one ugly son of a bitch. And my wife, Pearl, is next door, so I would appreciate a little discretion.
He don't know what we're doing, does he?
Well, it's better to beg for forgiveness and ask for permission.
Would you like to come inside?
Much obliged.
I want to be in the movie.
Well, you can't. The story can't just change midway through.
If Daddy catches us, there's no telling what he might do.
My wife is not well. It happens after dark.
Maxine? You don't want to leave, do you?
People's eyes are gonna pop out of their damn skulls when they see this. What? Are you all right?
No.
One of the boys found this inside.
What do you think is on it?
I see one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
So what you just heard is from the movie X, written and directed by Ty West, and the story is as follows. In 1979, a group of young filmmakers set out to make an adult film in rural Texas, but their reclusive elderly hosts catch them in the act. The cast find themselves fighting for their lives. Rowan, here on Now Slaying, we try and keep things relatively spoiler-free up front. So, what were your, general spoiler-free thoughts on X?
So, like I said, I was pumped from the get-go, from the trailer. So, I went in with super high expectations, and I think it somewhat delivers what you're expecting. Now, kind of unlike what you said there, towards the beginning, this actually kind of subverted what I thought it was gonna be.
Oh, really?
I had, listeners of the podcast know Rowan always projects things on his movies and just is like, yeah, that's what this is gonna be. So I thought this was gonna be something totally different. So that was, a somewhat pleasant surprise for me.
Is it spoilery to get into like what you were expecting the movie to be, or is it?
No, I don't think so. So,
Okay.
I mean, so basically, like, when I saw the trailer, I really, just the way it was framed, I had kind of assumed, I was like, all right, like, we see these old people in the trailer. I was like, it looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I was like, no, they're not going to do, like, anything like that. So then I was like, oh, old, like, the way the old lady looked.
Yeah, the makeup. Yeah.
I thought we were going, like, vampire route, like,
Yeah, I could see that.
or monster or something like that. That was what I expected of it.
Just going into the movie, not knowing, even seeing the trailer for me, what I expected was there to be some sort of, I don't know, reason that one of these women kind of had a breakdown on the, the porn set and kind of, I don't know, went crazy and kind of started killing someone, or like maybe the producer pushed something too far, or the director was, too handsy or something like that.
Yeah.
So a little bit different than what I was expecting as well, but I would say I probably enjoyed it a little bit overall, a little bit more than you. I think you keep bringing up Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think in some ways this almost feels like what the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre probably wanted to be, because this feels like, to me, when I'm watching a lot of it, it feels like it has the grit and the grime of the old Texas Chainsaw Massacre without just putting like a film grain over everything. It's kind of like the subject matter really gets into there. It adds a lot to it.
I would agree with that.
Kind of like getting into the story a little bit. Like, I was pretty much right off the bat, like, pretty captivated by all just the filmmaking aspect of it. I love movies that are all about filmmaking, even if it's about, porn filmmaking, which this movie, it's kind of like you have that snobby director who feels like he's making an art house film when he's just on a grimy kind of sleazy porn set. So that was pretty fun to watch. It was fun to see like how they would kind of cut around a lot of it to make sure that this just got an R rating and not an X rating or an NC-17.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I always kind of giggle. I enjoy films that are about filmmaking, even on an undertone. And also, I don't know why I didn't really ever clue in from the trailer, but I was kind of excited to see Kid Cudi.
So I never even knew that was him. I watched the whole movie. I'm not even familiar with him. I saw it on IMDb. So yeah, man, I never knew.
Well, in kind of his I think his first role where he's not like credited as Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
I believe he I haven't seen like, I think he's in Don't Look Up. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. No, I don't think you need to see it, but
But to me, like, I mean, he's a guy that he's really into horror. He's the star of one of the episodes of, I think, season 2, I think, of Creep Show. He's in one of the stories in that. So I knew he had flirted with horror, but yeah, it didn't really clue into me, and I was like, oh wow, I was like, Kid Cudi, which it can either be a very good thing or a very bad thing when you mix your movies with rappers.
Well, that was kind of like when I was going in. I never knew he was famous at all, so I just got to watch him as like this bull of this porn production, right? Like the male talent, right?
Yeah.
So I thought he was really great in the role. I was like, all right, like, he was very professional, but he was very like suave and sweet talking as well. And then I like how kind of like some of his Marine background comes into play like later in the movie. Like he was a great character.
Yeah, I think he was very well casted.
He wasn't quite as distracting to me as discount Matthew McConaughey, because very clearly they wanted like a Matthew McConaughey type, and the dude they got is just like doing his best like True Detective or Lincoln commercial performance of Matthew McConaughey. It's pretty on the nose.
The accent was bad. The accent I'm not gonna lie, probably like one of my only like spoiler-free complaints of this was that there was a lot of bad accents.
So Mia Goth to me was pretty bad in the beginning in terms of her accent as well. Like I actually didn't understand what her first line of the movie was, when she's in like kind of the dressing room and she says something to herself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I missed it and I was like, well, clearly that was supposed to be an important line or like a thematically resonant line, obviously for the movie, because then we kind of cut to, licensed music and we're getting into the vibe, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, shit, I missed that just purely because of the accent.
I was going to say, too, I was kind of, I don't know how you felt. I was a little 50-50, man, on just like the editing and the cinematography.
Oh, really? So for me, the reason why it works, because it is weird for sure at times. And it's kind of like, I think he's trying to harken back to like some of this like gritty, grimy filmmaking. Like some of the parts where, I think it's right in the beginning actually, so this isn't spoilery, it's just literally they're cutting to, it's like a televangelism, like on TV, and then we quickly cut to like a herd of cattle, and then back to the televangelism, and then back to the herd of cattle. And I think kind of like with some of those weird cuts, it's kind of saying like, yeah, like this is cattle, like he's preaching to like the following. Like there was cuts like that where I was like, they felt really jarring, but I was like, okay, I think I know what you're going for. But like literally, if you haven't seen it, it's literally just like man preaching, cut to cattle, man preaching, cut to cattle, like no smoothness back and forth.
They were like really abrupt, and it kind of threw me off, and especially when like I'll get more into the scene like once we talk about spoilers, but like when we get the scene with like Mia Goth and like the alligator, where like then you have like these like sprawling kind of like very like beautiful, long, artistic shots.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of like, it threw me for a loop for a while.
Did you think like the cinematography was better than the editing? Is that kind of like what you were thinking? Or is it
100%.
Okay.
Like I didn't have an issue necessarily with the cinematography. It was more just the editing.
Yeah, because they even do like, they're not star wipes, but it's like, they wipe away the previous scene, and then come into the other one. It's like really old style edits in the movie. And they actually have a discussion very early in the movie about editing. And the guy kind of talks about how he wanted to make it feel a little bit avant-garde or a little bit more artsy. And I feel like that sentiment kind of transferred over to the final cut of the film.
That director, man, like that's not the guy from Evil Dead, is it?
I don't know, man, but I got the same vibes. What a wiener, the entire movie.
I was like, is this the guy from the Evil Dead remake? It looks exactly like him. And then I looked up his filmography and I was like, I don't think it's him. Literally popped up my letterbox right now. Yeah, I don't think it's this guy. So
yeah, it's funny because his like thoughts on making this porn movie, they're very conflicting, because he wants to get the overhead shot at a gas station where there's phallic imagery of the man filling up the van. But also, when they're actually filming porn, he doesn't really want to shoot the porn. He just wants to shoot facial reactions and whatnot the entire time. It's like, dude, do you want like all this in there or not? He's such a, I don't know, maybe that's the way directors are, but I was like, man, this guy is annoying as all hell.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so I think basically what everyone's going to be waiting for when they're watching this movie is like, when does it actually turn into a horror movie? A lot of, I would say the first half hour to 40 minutes is kind of sleazy. It's kind of grimy, like we said. It kind of gives vibes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it doesn't really tread into horror territory until a very distinct point in the movie. And I think kind of to discuss that and kind of discuss maybe some of the aspects that didn't work so much for Rowan, or some of the interesting turns that I would kind of like to talk about, I think we need to get into spoiler discussion. So maybe just before we get there, would you recommend the movie, not recommend the movie? I know it's a little bit, I don't know, polar, but
yeah, no, I was gonna say, I'm still feel like I'm processing. When I came out, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Now that I've marinated over it, I think I would recommend it. Like, I think it's worth your time, and you gotta appreciate the horror you get.
Yeah, we were pretty vague, but obviously it is a vibe. It's you gotta be in a specific mood, I would say, for the movie. It's not quite as slow as something like House of the Devil, but I also don't know if it really fits for like a March release. Like, this should have been like a July summer sweltering
this
heat
is a
release.
summer movie.
Yeah, I don't know why it came out in March. But yeah, I mean, I would give it a recommendation as well. I think I'm pretty positive on the movie. I think you should go out and see it. I don't think you should listen to our spoiler discussion or watch the trailer if you haven't already. I think you should just check it out. Maybe not rush out to the theaters and see it, but wait for it to be on a streaming service. And yeah, I think it's worth seeing. All right. Well, This is the time. If you haven't seen the movie, get out now because we're going to get into the spoiler discussion. What do you want to start off with? You go first. I got some notes to get to, but you wanted to mention some disappointments, I think, with it.
To me, I don't know. I wouldn't say disappointments, but I mean, I think the big spoiler thing would be, so not a vampire movie as I kind of expected. No. I definitely wasn't expecting a slasher at all.
So you weren't expecting a beautiful love story between these elderly folk that are trying to rekindle their passion for one another through murdering all these kids?
Yeah, not at all.
No, neither was I. I was pretty surprised, especially like you said. I thought the old age makeup was kind of bad, and I haven't Googled this, but it felt like to me like very clearly like it was some of the cast just in old age makeup. Like I don't know if that's the case. Have you done any looking into it at all?
I didn't look into it, but I'm like, I was like, I don't know if there's people that are this ugly, so.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the old lady was Mia Goth in old age makeup, and then I felt like
kind of got that vibe.
Yeah, and then apparently Howard is credited as somebody else. So I guess that makes sense, but very much like there's a shot in the movie when Mia Goth is finally like acting in the porno. I don't know. I was going to say the porn film, but when she was acting in the porno, it kind of does like a cross cut between her flesh kind of becoming kind of like leathery and old, and then she kind of turns into the old woman for like a cut, and then it goes back and forth. And it's kind of like, okay, I feel very much like it's the same actress playing both, but I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah, I just looked it up on Letterboxd. So Mia Goth does play Pearl.
Yeah, because Howard like has a lot more like interactions with the cast, like when he's like leading them out, for example, out to the the cabin they're going to be staying in and whatnot. I was kind of like, you could do it with camera tricks, you could do it with a body double and stuff like that, but it's like it's just a bit of work for like a lower budget production. I certainly didn't expect like the old people to be murdering. I think I liked it. I think it's really weird. I think it's kind of like, the final line of the movie that it's like, wow, this is one fucked up horror movie. That's kind of how I felt about it. Like when it started happening, I was like, if I don't see these old people fuck, this movie fails. Because like that is like literally what they're putting in your head right from the very like get-go. It's kind of like this idea of like, well, now that we're older, we're not as pretty or we're not as wanted as like these young people in the porn movie that they're shooting. And it's very much like the entire time it's kind of like this fascination with beauty and like obviously not even just beauty but purely like sex. Like this is a very like scintillating movie.
I think the theater's pre-show kind of like put me in a mind state when I went in, so it can't be a pre-show without showing all these cast interviews for the movie I'm about to see.
Oh my God.
The main interview, of course, is with Brittany Snow. I think just because she's, kind of the name of the project.
It's funny. It's like I barely know her, I think, when I was looking through her IMDb. That's why I never even mentioned her in the opening.
So she said in the interview, she's like, oh, this is like a real body positive and like sex positive film. And I guess, once I started watching it, like just because, they play that interview like 80 times before the movie starts, like... So when it started, I'm like kind of like, oh, okay, like, so I'm like trying to figure out what it, I still didn't expect all that. I didn't expect to see like these two old people just giving her on the bed, but
no.
Then I'm like, okay, I see what's going on here.
The thing is like, I think if they were trying to portray like the old people getting it on as like scary, purely scary, like obviously Mia Goth is beneath the bed and like it's kind of like gross, but it's also kind of a little bit weirdly like sickly funny. And I think the movie winds up having a good sense of humor about it by the end of it. Like I know they can't just purely portray these old people as like scary because it's old people. It's like, we shouldn't be so deathly afraid of just old people. Now, if they're brandishing a shotgun and chasing us, of course, we'd be scared. But it's kind of like and this is like getting right to the very end of the movie, but there's like a setup with it. It's like, my wife can't wander around, what if she, hurts her hip? And when she shoots the shotgun near the end of the movie, blows through the door and blows out her hip, like she's like, oh, my hip. I bust out laughing. So I kind of appreciated the movie's vibe for just being kind of silly as well.
So I think, you kind of mentioned it in the spoiler-free part, but it does take probably like 40 minutes or so to like actually get into like anything. We've got this like slow build up, and I'm not gonna lie, like when I was sitting in the theater, it wasn't so much about the pacing because I love a slow burn movie. I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I like get this. I'm like the cuts were throwing me off, and I was just like, I don't know. And then like it kicks in and I was just like, oh shit, like that, like the whole last half, like the whole slasher part of it, I had like a ball with. I was like, because it was like quick pace, like everything goes pretty quick. It's just kind of like kill after kill, and like it was way more brutal, I think, than I was expecting.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Like, the movie opens with a scene where kind of like the police themselves are kind of like shocked. They're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. So the entire movie, I'm waiting to basically be like, what's in the basement? What were they looking at? And I don't think the movie really pays off on that because it's just like it's just a body that's left there for a while that's killed, right? It's like, police see that all the time, so I don't think they'd be absolutely shocked by that. But, which I should have mentioned in the spoiler-free discussion, the cow on the way to the cabin that's like, I'm like, okay, this is very gory. It's like, it was a cow that was hit by a transport truck and its entrails are spilt all over the road and then the tires are crushing them up as they're going over it. I was like, all right, in the third act of this movie, it's going to be gory as all hell. Like, we're going to get there because if you're spending the time to show this cow in such like gross fashion, we're going to see like some messed up kills by the end of this movie.
It was fantastic. And like I said, don't let my editing comments, deter you. The film looks incredible. Like,
I think it's a choice. That's the thing. It's like, and clearly it doesn't really work for you. For me, for whatever reason, it kind of felt like cheap and sleazy and like exploitative, like kind of like old exploitation movies. That it kind of worked a little bit for me. I was kind of like every single time it happened, I'd see it and I'd kind of have a dumb little smirk on my face, right? It wasn't like I was like, oh my God, what's happening? I was like, okay, that was cheeky or that was cute,
I think it's worth the price of admission just for that wide long shot of the alligator and Mia Goth. That was like
excellent. Yeah.
That was probably one of my favorite scenes in any movie I've ever seen. Like, that's how much I liked that shot.
I love the shot. Yeah.
It was just awesome. I was like, this is like, suspense isn't built that good in anything.
Well, that was the thing, because like we said, it takes about 40 minutes to get into it. So this shot with Mia Goth is probably a half hour in or so. She kind of runs off by herself and goes skinny dipping, and she's floating in this swamp. And it's just this wide shot of you see like an alligator getting closer and closer and closer. And it reminds me of like almost Jaws in a way. I mean, it doesn't have the music, but it's kind of like the impending danger. And for me, I was kind of like, okay, they're not going to kill Mia Goth off, but like, if she does get bitten and like, it messes up her leg or something and then messes up the shoot and then, this is the way we get the blood and gore into the movie, I was kind of like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then when she's on the edge of the dock pulling herself up, you can actually see the alligator through like the gap in her arm. Like when she's pulling herself up, it's so close. I was like, oh man, this is good shit. Like I was on the edge of my seat for sure.
Well, it was funny because during that scene, I had the thought in the theaters, I was like, what if we've all been fooled and this is just like a Lake Placid movie and this is literally about like a killer alligator.
Bro, I would have probably been fine with that. I'm a big alligator fan.
I was totally ready for it, and I was just like, oh, I guess this is what it is, and these old people are just a distraction.
Yeah.
Although we do get a alligator payoff later, so.
Oh, we gotta, if we're on the topic of the alligator, let's get to that. Like, Brittany Snow, you said her name is, right?
Yeah.
She gets absolutely destroyed by the alligator, and it is like a head snap alligator bite. It's like the old lady, Pearl, like kind of insults her, calls her a whore and whatnot, and pushes her off the end of the dock. And it's almost like comedic timing. Like once again, I think this movie has like a wicked sense of humor about it because it's enough for her to like surface and be like, "You bitch," they like call each other a bitch, and then the alligator just jumps up and grabs her by the head, and then it's just like instant like death roll, and they're watching her get eaten by this alligator. It's I don't know, like I bust out laughing. It was only me in the theater, so if I keep saying I'm busting out laughing, it was only me. I felt like a perv for the first half of the movie, and then the last half I was like, all right, this is a lot of fun. So I was chuckling along. Basically when the movie shifts from kind of like this grimy movie to a straight up horror, it's because the director's girlfriend, Jenna Ortega, wants to get into the film herself, and he kind of like can't take it, and he storms off. And man, that is a brutal kill. It's just a knife kill, like, but basically he's trying to leave, and he kind of catches Pearl out wandering around. She has a knife behind her back and kind of comes onto him. And man, she must stab that guy's throat about 20 times, I'd say. I'm surprised his head was even left on at the end.
A lot of this was like pretty brutal. I was like, that kill, like even his girlfriend is like trapped in the basement and she's like trying to get out. And he just like mashes her fingers up like with the butt of the rifle. Like, yeah, a lot of this was like even like her kind of demise, like the shotgun that was just like, which, you know, I feel when you're watching it, like, I feel like everyone in the theater knew, like, she's running and you're like, oh yeah, this isn't gonna like end well when she runs out of the door.
Yeah. Well, that one got me, actually. Like, the gunshot got me. I was surprised that she got shot that quickly. Like, that she made it one step out the door, you know, and they were right in the middle of the act like a couple seconds ago, but I guess it's been a while. The guy probably didn't last that long and they moved on. But yeah, when she was running out of the house and just gets sniped, like, instantly. Whenever I feel like in a horror movie that's kind of, you know, that you know it's going to be graphic and gory, you're always waiting for the shotgun headshot. So I was a little bit disappointed with Kid Cudi when he gets killed, that it was just kind of like off screen, you know, kind of to the chest, center mass. I was like, okay, that's, you know, they didn't give us what we wanted, you know, because there is a discussion in the movie and they do it about pornography that is like, you give the people what they want, but that's also a commentary on horror movies, right? Like, that's the whole kind of thesis for this movie. It's like, you give the people what they want. So people are here to see this gory movie by the end of it. So it's like, yeah, you give them what they want. And we kind of get it, I guess, with Jenna, you know, with the by the end of it.
Now, I'm curious, you know, towards the ending, like, I feel, you know, we kind of get, like, I felt like there was kind of two twists to the ending. And, like, I'm curious, did you see that coming? Was there any
what twists are we
inkling?
talking about? Are we talking about the TV twist right at the end? Because no, I didn't see that coming. I think that was kind of bad. If we're talking about literally the final, like, I don't know, probably minute or two of the movie. But what was the other twist you were referencing?
I don't know if I would call it a twist, but I didn't think that Pearl and her man Howard there, I didn't overly think they were gonna bite the dust, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, I kind of thought, kind of spirit of giving them what they want. I'm like, you know what? They're gonna kill Mia Goth. It's gonna be, you know, they're just gonna, you're gonna think she's gonna escape. They're gonna give us that little Texas Chainsaw moment or something.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's pretty much done, which, you know, we get, like, probably the brutal scene of, you know, a head crushing.
Yeah, what's funny is we've seen that numerous times in recent horror movies. I think it might even be in Del Toro's new movie, which isn't a horror movie, Nightmare Alley. Like, I think they do a head crush in that. But this one is, like, specifically graphic, which is, like, you see, like, the skull kind of split and the top of the skull kind of, like, wiggles almost, like, back and forth in the road as she's driving off. I was like, damn, man, this is... You're taking gore effects to a new level sometimes in some of these movies. Even me, I go like, oh, God, that's a little gross. I should have expected Mia Goth to die. I don't know why I didn't expect that, because we should have mentioned this in the early discussion as well, but, like, there's an announced prequel that's already filmed and in the bag for this movie that focuses on Mia Goth's character. So it winds up being like, oh, well, why do they have to do a prequel is kind of what I would think going into the movie. It's like, oh, well, she probably dies by the end of the movie. But yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, I was like, okay, how is she going to take out both these people? And I love that the husband just dies of a heart attack from, like, a little jump scare of Jenna Ortega. It's so goofy, but it's like, okay. I mean, he does mention his heart 3 or 4 times, and it is a main reason why they can't screw anymore or whatever, right? His heart can't take it.
And I was gonna say, the touch on the announcement of the prequel, I don't know how I feel about that. So I see they've already announced the name for it and everything.
Oh, what's it called? I never saw the name.
It's just called Pearl. So I'm I'm
really?
assuming it's just gonna be about Pearl and Howard.
Oh, then that's not what I wanted at all. I thought it was gonna be focusing on. I think her name is Maxine at the end of the movie. I thought it was gonna be focusing on her and kind of like her crazy religious upbringing, because that is like the weird twist of the movie for me. That it's just like this televangelism that we've been cutting back to over and over again throughout the movie, just to kind of seed in a little bit of like, you know, these people deserve to die, you know, they're sinners, you know, of the body and flesh, all this sort of shit.
Yeah.
That I just, that it was actually Mia Goth's character, like, I don't know, her dad talking about her, like, I guess, which is it's a very bizarre twist. I don't know why that's in there at all. But.
They didn't need it in there. It was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't even really want to see that like at all then, I guess, because I like how they reference Psycho earlier in the movie, and then when Kid Cudi's out exploring the pond, he kind of finds a car that is like very much like put in, you know, a body of water similar to Psycho, where it's just kind of the back part hanging out. I was like, okay, that's a cute detail. It also kind of says that they've done this, you know, multiple times.
Yeah.
Pearl and Howard, but yeah, no. Dude, I don't really want to see that. I guess it'll be about the group that was there before them or whatever. But yeah,
I
don't
would
know.
suspect.
Weird choice. I mean, this doesn't need a prequel or a sequel anyways. It's just, it should have been its own little standalone movie. I kind of felt like it jumped the shark a little bit there near the end, where he almost like felt like he wanted to set up his cinematic universe or something, because there was a couple of different ways like sequels or prequels could go from this.
I agree with that. Ty West is trying to get that money. He's trying to cash out.
Yeah, it's funny because, of course, I'm subscribed to the A24 newsletter. And I read like an article on this movie today, like it was just in my email. And he was just talking about how like to him the movie is all about how pornography and horror are two aspects of filmmaking that exist outside of the Hollywood system. And like the movie kind of commentates on that a little bit. And, you know, that's what it feels like when I'm watching it. It feels like, oh, this you know, it just shouldn't be made in Hollywood, right? It should be grimier and whatnot. But yeah, I guess he just wrote this script on a whim and sent it to A24, and they decided to produce it and make this movie for him. So I don't know, maybe they had something about how they wanted there to be more movies out of it or something. But strange choice. I'm so caught off guard by that Pearl, you know, title for the prequel that I don't even know what to make of it.
Whatever, I'm a sucker. I'll go see it. So
yeah, I mean, it'll be A24 again. I'll go see it as well. But yeah, that's a strange choice. But I don't know. I don't know if there's really too much else to get into with this one. Is there any other final things you want to mention about the movie, or before we score it?
No, I say we score it and go check it out for yourself.
Yeah, so I'm going to give X a strong yay for me. It's not a slay. Like I said, there's some little weird aspects to the movie that it didn't always work for me. I think the porn intro, you probably could have shaved about 10 minutes off there, and I think it would have been a stronger movie to it. Basically, get to the kills a little bit sooner, and it does kind of wind up falling into the tropes of people wandering out of the house almost one by one and getting killed off, which is kind of like my least favorite slasher tropes or horror tropes. So that was kind of a little bit annoying for me. And the final reveal of the televangelism's daughter, like, just that was kind of bad. Like, I understand it was meant to be cheesy, I think, to some degree, and meant to be silly, but it was just, I really didn't need that at all. So yeah, I'd give it a strong yay. And I mean, if you've listened this far, hopefully we never spoiled it too much for you, and you should go see it.
So I'm gonna give it a strong okay.
That's kind of what I felt. Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely see it again. I would suggest people to see it, but I don't know if it'll be everybody's cup of tea. It did commit what I found to be, you know, I call it the Fear Street cardinal sin, where the last needle drop in the movie isn't a song from the time period, so that kind of threw me off. We have this film that, you know, the beginning of it, we're told, is, you know, like 1979 or 78 or whatever.
79, yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, this, you know, I'm pretty sure that last song's not from 1979, and it's definitely like a updated version of a song if it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, and they do use period appropriate music throughout the movie, or at least it felt like it to me. I'm no music connoisseur, but it felt like throughout the movie a lot of the other choices were good. So,
you know, my only other real complaint about it was another music thing. Don't Fear the Reaper. Do we need it in another movie?
Yeah, I kind of don't think so.
I was like, and then, I think with the commentary, I think it was like a witty wink to be like, hey, this is, but at the same time, I was like, really?
Yeah, it felt cheeky to me, but yeah, I understand where some people might just be like, oh my God, this again, so on the nose, right?
I think it's strong okay. I don't think this will be everybody's cup of tea, but, I'm looking forward, this is something like I'd probably pick up the Blu-ray because I probably like to watch it again a couple times just to process it some more.
I want to watch it in like the comfort of my own home and not feel like a creep. I mean, it was only me in the theater, which I don't know if that really added to it or subtracted to it, because it was kind of like just me by myself in a dark room watching like this porno movie for the first 40 minutes, right? It was kind of, I don't know, made me feel like a perv.
I think it can be enjoyed in, the comforts of your own home as well.
For sure. Well, I was just going to wrap things up. I was going to say, if you'd like to follow us on our social medias, you can do so pretty much everywhere at It Slays Podcast. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Slasher, which Rowan will kill me if I don't mention it, so Slasher. And if you want to support the show in another way, you can always head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and kick us a few bucks if you, can do so. And if you don't, no big deal to us, but just figured I'd throw it out there. And so if you want to check out X for yourself, it's playing in theaters now. And we've been now slaying. So thank you for listening. I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And we'll see you all later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.